Yeah.
Okay. In your profile, you said you've worked with children in refugee camps, Uganda, and basically all in part of East Africa. What kind of trauma or psychological needs to children in refugee camps have to deal with compared to normal children who are not in war-torn countries, who are not refugees and all? What do refugee children go through?
So, refugee children, like any other refugee out there, when you hear the word refugee, they're seeking refuge.
Okay.
So there's something happening and they're running towards safety. And in the process of running towards safety as a child, there's so many things, there's so much traumatic experiences that they go through, and they see, they see people being killed, they see a lot of trauma, and some of them are even injured in the process. They have to go days without food, and they stop playing, they stop living. And you're as a child, you are expected to move from a child to an adult who is sustainable, and not being in a position where you need help, where you need play. And you see, kids, play is their work. They're not able to do their work. Then what happens? It's like the childhood is robbed away from them.
Hello everybody, you're welcome to Just for Women Africa. My name is Olaliko Amusa, the founder of Just for Women Africa. And before we start our show, we'd like to give thanks to our host, Tia Coffee House. They're located here in Accra, Ghana, off the Port Shalumba Road. If you'd like to come over for breakfast, lunch, dinner, Tia Coffee House is the place to be. Nice, serene environment. You won't get it wrong by coming over to Tia Coffee House. I highly recommend it. And today, on today's show, we have with us Dorcus Odera, who is a counseling psychologist who specializes in children with disabilities, neurodevelopment, and refugee children and all. And she's with us today with us on the show. She's Kenyan, who is based here in Ghana. So let's get ahead with the interview. You're welcome to Just for Women Africa, Dorcus.
Thank you.
Right. All right, Dorcus, then before we get into what exactly you do as a psychologist, could you just tell us briefly, you've been in Ghana for about past 5-6 years. What's been your experience in living in Ghana? Moving all the way from East Africa to West Africa.
Yeah. So I have been here like 5-6 years, as you have mentioned, and I would say that the environment is very different. There's a lot of difference, but also a lot of things to appreciate and new things to learn. And also, I feel like the cultures are different, the food is different, the environment is different, and I love it. It takes time for you to settle in and get used to the system and the environment, but I think I love Ghana. I love Ghanaians, very kind compared to where I came from, where everybody's just work, business. Everybody's just focused on what they want to do. And I feel like that extra thought to think about what somebody else is, whom I need support and being there for them. I feel like that's one big culture that I've gotten in Ghana. And also, the friendliness of people. I've come to adjust in the 5 years. I'm settling in nicely, getting used to everything, the food, a little bit of the language. Yeah.
All right, that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. Actually, Ghana people are welcoming, basically.
Yeah, they are.
All right. And from a woman perspective, any differences with being a woman in Kenya and being a woman here in Ghana?
Yeah, there's a lot of difference. I feel like in Kenya there's a lot of open-mindedness, and women have a chance to speak up their mind and be who they are, take up space. And I feel like one of the things that really struck me when I came to Ghana was that as a woman, unless you bring yourself out there, you're invisible.
Okay.
Almost invisible. And sometimes if you are with a man, the people would prefer to, speak to a man and ignore you as a woman, unless you assert yourself and speak up and take up space. and I feel like it's also part of how the culture has been. So it's part of learning what it is, the reason as to why it is that way, and also appreciating what it is without just bashing it and not really knowing what the reason behind how people hold themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really an interesting view. I've not heard that view from from a foreigner before.
Yeah.
But what do you think accounts for the fact that they'll say a man and rather talk to a man than a woman?
You say?
What do you think accounts for the fact that they'll rather talk to a man than ignore a woman?
I don't know. I felt like maybe and this is my assumption. It could be true. It could not be true. I felt that maybe they prefer speaking to a man because the men are seen as the leaders and the voice, and maybe they prefer to get, and they're seen as people of authority as compared to women, and maybe there's just that familiarity that has been over time that okay, the man would speak on behalf of everybody else, which maybe it's also one of the things that is really hard to break with over time. It could be a cultural thing, yeah, but it's worth looking into and really understanding what it means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'd really love to go dive into that and first have a whole conversation on that, on the cultural differences. But that's not what we're here today for. All right. So you're basically a psychologist.
Yes, I am a counseling psychologist, and I'm a SomaSource practitioner. So it's all under psychology.
Understood.
Yeah.
What's the SomaSource practitioner?
So a SomaSource practitioner, SomaSource is a movement-based practice.
Okay.
It's more like a dance therapy kind of practice.
Okay.
It comes from the belief that when we can tap into those negative energies inside of us through movement and express it out.
Okay.
And then through that you are able to feel more liberated from those things that weigh down on you, psychological issues. Yeah, so it's just a different approach to psychology and working with people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I noticed that you focus more on kids. Why do you focus on kids? Why not a psychologist for everybody?
So I've always felt drawn to working with kids. I've always loved working with kids and even just appreciating who they are, the unique personality that they bring. And one thing that comes with being a child is not to the inability of not having a voice like everybody else. And so there is a possibility of suffering in silence, and without nobody speaking up for you. And it's like an adult is always there to speak on your behalf, which in normal cases is not the truth. And also, just as I was getting into this field, I came to realize that over time, healers and psychologists, you're always drawn to the thing that you have a deficit over, or something that really impacted your life either way.
Okay.
And looking at my life, just going back, I've found that, like everybody else, I had sometimes challenging childhoods and difficulties here and there, and it was really hard to bring out whatever I had in me or the suffering that I had in me using my voice. And there was we are all from Africa, and we know these children are always silenced, and they're like, you're just here to be seen and play, but then you don't have an opinion, you don't have a voice. And so me being drawn to that, I try to give the kids a voice, try to listen to the children. What are they saying? What do they need? Because if you don't know what somebody needs, you might be giving them something that maybe they don't need, and then they react negatively towards it. And then it's just a ripple effect of negative energy. Yeah. Instead of asking them what they need, and even just trying to seek what they need and then giving them what they need, and then everybody's happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's quite interesting to know. All right, so over the years that you experienced with it, I mean, dealing with children's psychology, what are some of the things you heard from children that amazes you as a psychologist?
One thing I really love about kids is like they're an open book.
Okay.
And they don't have limitations in their speech. As adults, when we want to say something, we ponder upon it and we think, we wonder, what is the person, how is the other person going to react? And sometimes that filters and it takes away the originality of the idea or the purity of whatever we feel, of whatever we have within.
Okay.
And for kids, they have, they bring things uncensored, and it shows you how pure it is. And, they're very real with you. There's no, there's no camouflage as we have as adults. I can be smiling at you, but deep within I'm like, okay, I want to kill you. But, kids, if they're angry, they're like, I'm angry, I'm sad.
Okay.
Mommy, you're not listening. You are not seeing, you're not understanding what I'm saying, And kids sometimes when they say that, or sometimes they can tell you, most of the time when they ask why, we are like, how can you be asking questions? you just need to receive, not to ask. But it's interesting because as adults, we are silenced and we never even ask, we never get to really understand things. Because we never ask questions. We don't get to learn. We limit ourselves. Whatever I'm told, okay, I'll take it as it is. But then I don't really bring whatever is deep within me to tell you what is in my heart and what I really want to bring forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of us are silenced over the years.
Yes.
And I can imagine what children go through. Okay. So which brings me to my next question. Should children be seeing psychologists, or parents should wait until there's an issue before a child goes to the psychologist?
Children, like everybody else, like any human being, should get a way of getting an outlet of their emotions, of their feelings. When it's too much, it's like when you're pouring water in a cup and it starts overflowing. You either stop pouring the water or you spill over some of the water.
Okay.
And so what happens is that with kids in our society, the parents get to determine how much it's full, even if it's spilling over. We tend to say, this child is just having behavioral issues or they're acting up, but then we don't look beyond the acting up.
Okay.
What could be causing the acting up? What could be causing the crying? What could be causing the shouting and screaming?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So basically, what you're trying to say is we should wait till there's an issue.
No, really. So normally, it's to create avenues for kids to be able to express themselves.
Okay.
So sometimes even in the home, when a child is angry, when they're sad, as a parent, they're the first point of contact. You need to seek to understand the reason behind the sadness, the reason behind the anger. And then it reaches a point where as a parent, you are not, well skilled to handle those issues, then you get to see a specialist.
Okay.
Yeah. So then there's a bit of, self-care that you can, as parent, you can give to your child. And also when it gets to a certain point where you feel like you don't have the answers or you are limited, then you get to see a specialist.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get help. Yeah.
Okay. In your profile, you said you've worked with children in refugee camps, Uganda, and basically all over in parts of East Africa. What kind of trauma or psychological needs to children in refugee camps have to deal with than compared to normal children who are not in war-torn countries, who are not refugees and all? What do refugee children go through?
So, refugee children, like any other refugee out there, when you hear the word refugee, they're seeking refuge.
Okay.
So there's something happening and they're running towards safety. And in the process of running towards safety, as a child, you know, there's so many things, there's so much traumatic experiences that they go through, and they see, you know, they see people being killed, they see a lot of trauma, and some of them are even injured in the process. They have to go days without food, and they stop playing, they stop living. And you're kind of, as a child, you are expected to move from a child to an adult who is sustainable, and not being in a position where you need help, where you need play. And you see, kids, play is their work. They're not able to do their work. Then what happens? It's like the childhood is robbed away from them. Then their minds are very little, that they're not able to process the magnitude of what is happening. And normally, as kids, refugee children, what happens is that during this whole process, the trauma affects them so much that, you know, it's something that's unfathomable. You know, we can't even explain it enough. It's really, so you see, like, they're so withdrawn, and you see they have a lot of psychological problems because there's no time to address or for them to even understand whatever is happening. And so it's just like their life is basically robbed away from them. So what kind of treatment, I mean, a child, I mean, with all that trauma, what kind of, as a psychologist, what do you recommend for children like that? So for children, generally, as we say, play is their work. Play is their life. So normally we would use play to help them to express themselves. That is their happy place. And when you're in your happy place, you are able to expel all the negative energy. And normally, so we use play therapy. We can use movement-based therapy for them to expel whatever negative energy that they have within them. And at times, even talk therapy, you know, when they're a little bit older, or even as young as they are, you know, you can tell stories, and they can tell stories and talk about whatever is happening. And through that, they go through a healing process. And they're able to deal with some of the traumatic experiences that they've had in their previous lives. All right, that's really quite interesting. I like the fact that you said that, you know, for children, work is the place that work. They wake up in the morning, they play. They're sleeping, they play. And if they can't play, it's like somebody takes away your sight, your speech. You know, you're incapacitated. I do agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. Okay, so let's go back. You grew up basically in East Africa, in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and now you live in Ghana. What's the psychology industry like in Kenya and in Ghana? Is there a huge difference? So when I came to Ghana, I had moved from Nairobi, and, you know, I studied psychology in Kenya and worked a little bit around East Africa, and then I've now come to move to Ghana and starting to practice psychology here. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that Ghana as a country is still a little bit further behind in terms of the awareness, in terms of accessibility to psychological services, and, you know, even just the awareness around the need for psychology, or even what psychology is, you know, as compared to even Kenya and other countries where people are aware, in as much as there's still challenges, but it's not as bad as here. And accessibility, I feel like there's also, in both places, it's accessible to those who have the money to afford it. And it's really expensive. But also, I find that places like in East Africa and like even Nairobi, there's funding for such like accessibility. As compared to a place like Ghana, where the funding is really low because there's not much awareness around it, and even the importance of it. How come there's so much funding for psychology in Kenya than compared to here in Ghana and West Africa? So I feel, you know, I still have time I haven't really been out there in, you know, I came to Ghana and I started working in a school, and I haven't really explored it like you've gone deep to really understand. But what I can see is that in countries like Kenya, what happens is that there's been a lot of awareness. There's been a lot of psychoeducation and normalization of, you know, trauma and psychological issues. While here, it's still a growing field. So I feel like the growth is much more awareness, and, you know, awareness, and people are much more aware in East Africa than here. I find that here, when somebody, like a child has neurodevelopmental challenges, like let's say special needs, they still hide the kids. They still feel ashamed. And it happens even in Kenya, but it's in laws, like you'd find it deep in the villages. But here, even in the city, there is that denial of the fact that this child needs help and this child needs support. And also it comes from a place of not having that awareness of the availability of support and help.
Well, that's really quite interesting. Okay, so what do you think can be done to make psychologists available to children, both in West Africa and East Africa, more available? I mean, of course, like you said, right now, even deep in the villages in Kenya, I mean, it's still like not all that known. You know, so what can you think can be done to
make kids,
to narrow the gap?
So, one, we need to do a lot of psychoeducation and awareness creation of the fact that these things exist. Psychological needs exist. And then once we understand that there's a need, then we try to create avenues where we can then bring the skilled personnel to attend to those needs. So, and also like for instance, like in our schools, embracing the fact that the kids need support and having a counselor in the school. In the hospitals, when you go through a tough time, you need to get support, and having psychologists and counselors there. In almost all institutions, knowing that there needs to be there's a psychological need, and there's how do we feel that need? Then you bring the skilled personnel to fill that need.
All right. Okay, so as we're about to round up the interview, what's your last words to parents out there who have children and they're scared of bringing them over to, say, a psychologist, or the fact that they're not aware that the children have psychological issues?
So what I would tell parents is, as a parent, your instincts are always right. When you think that your child has a problem or there's a problem somewhere, look deep into it and try to see what the problem is and see how to get the help. The other thing is, when your child starts behaving in a way that is not normal, as a parent, your child will wake up in this mood, that days they're moody, that days they're happy, and what a normal day for your child will be like. When you see that there's some sort of a difference in their daily routine, then you have to take a deeper look into what could be the problem. And the parent is the first stop for the child, the first stop to support your child. Before even you think about external help, how do you create an environment where your child can come and tell you, Mom, I'm not happy, I'm feeling sad today, I'm feeling angry, or I feel like crying, I feel like, can we cuddle today? Creating that environment. There are certain environments where these things are not normalized, and we feel like, there's no time for closeness and having, personal time with your kids, and to have more of those, because then when you are close to somebody, you are able to tell that, oh, today Lakan is not feeling well. You don't look your usual self, and then you probe and to know what the problem could be. Then in that way you're meeting their needs, or you're helping them to even also realize, because sometimes they don't even realize for themselves that there's a problem. That's really nice to know. Okay, so our viewers who are watching all over Africa, in Ghana, and they'd like to get hold of a psychologist who specializes just in children, could you give out your contact details? Yes, so my number, the number that I'm using in Ghana is 050-824-1791. And my email address, you can write to me. Dorcus is DORCUS, Dorcus with a U. Dorcus Daisy, DAISY @gmail.com. So you can reach me either in those ways. And I'm on social media, though very dormant. But you can always get me on email or phone or a message.
Okay. All right, that's nice. That's nice. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Dorcas.
Thank you. Thank
And
you for having me.
you're welcome. And to our viewers, I'm sure you can see her contact details below. You can contact her if you need to see a psychologist privately. Dorcas will be there to help you out. And of course, she also specializes in children. If you have children and you feel the need to see a psychologist, Dorcas would, available to you. I'm sure here in Ghana, and I'm sure all over Africa via Zoom.
Yes, we do online therapy too.
Okay.
Thank God to COVID.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching Just for Women Africa. And to our next show, do not forget to subscribe. Tell a friend who knows a friend. And to the next show from Dorcas and I, it will be bye.
Bye. Thank you.